Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking off on a journey that truly captures the imagination. Humanity's relentless obsession with flight.
It really is something, isn't it?
Yeah. From those ancient myths, Icarus falling from the sky with his waxen wings, right up to these incredible metallic birds soaring effortlessly above us today. This dream, it's captivated us for millennia.
Absolutely.
But how did we actually get here? And, what does it really take to command one of these incredible machines?
That's a profound question, and one we're excited to explore with you today. Our focus is going to be a deep dive into the very first chapter of the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge.
The PHAK.
Yeah.
Foundational stuff.
Exactly. It's a foundational text for anyone looking to understand aviation, whether you're maybe an aspiring pilot, maybe a seasoned enthusiast, or maybe you're just deeply curious about what makes modern flight tick. And this chapter, it isn't just like a dry technical read. Chapter 1 takes us through a really fascinating journey through history, the establishment of crucial regulatory bodies, the ones that ensure our safety in the skies, and the defined pathways for actually becoming a pilot.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to unpack the essential nuggets of knowledge from this critical introduction. We want to give you a shortcut, sort of to being well-informed about how flight evolved, the government's essential role in keeping us safe up there, and what steps are involved in turning that dream of flying into a reality.
Yeah, get ready for some surprising facts, maybe, and hopefully more than a few aha moments that'll give you a fresh perspective on the skies above.
Sounds great. So let's kick things off right at the very beginning. For centuries, people looked up, saw birds, and just wondered, why not us? It wasn't just a casual thought. It was this enduring dream, almost a primal urge to conquer the sky, a yearning for that freedom.
Indeed. The pursuit of flight is, well, it's as old as civilization itself, really, woven into the fabric of human myth and aspiration. And we see these early, often fatal attempts by individuals. Sometimes they were called birdmen.
Right.
These folks, fueled by just pure human longing, would fit themselves with these artificial wings and literally leap from cliffs or towers. Their identities, well, they're largely lost to history, but each spectacular failure, while tragic, provided crucial, albeit kind of brutal, lessons.
Yeah, brutal is the word.
Where had the wing flappers gone wrong? It was a testament to humanity's sheer desire to fly, but a stark illustration that, trial and error alone wasn't quite enough.
And it wasn't just about strapping on feathers, like you said. Think about Leonardo da Vinci in the 1500s. I mean, the guy was centuries ahead of his time in so many ways.
Oh, absolutely.
He filled pages of his notebooks with these incredibly detailed sketches of proposed flying machines, like his famous ornithopter's machines designed to fly by flapping wings, just like a bird. But what's truly fascinating and a critical learning point here is that most of his ideas, despite their brilliance, were fundamentally flawed. And it was really for one key reason. He still clung to the idea that these bird-like wings would be powered by human strength.
Exactly. He couldn't quite break away from that biological analogy, failing to account for the immense power-to-weight ratio required for flight. Humans just aren't built like birds physically.
Right. Which leads us to a key scientific moment, doesn't it?
That does. That's a key observation, and it highlights a critical scientific breakthrough that came much later. By 1655, the brilliant mathematician, physicist, and inventor Robert Hooke, he concluded something truly pivotal.
Okay.
The human body simply does not possess the inherent strength or the necessary musculature to power artificial wings effectively enough for sustained flight. Period.
So that was it for human-powered flapping.
Pretty much. But this wasn't a dismissal of the dream. Rather, it was a profound redirection for scientific inquiry. Hooke's insight shifted the conversation from how can humans mimic birds to how can we create machines that defy gravity through artificial propulsion. It was a realization that liberated flight research from, biological imitation and pushed it towards actual engineering principles.
And that scientific shift, that fundamental understanding, was truly game-changing. It paved the way for the pioneers of heavier-than-air flight, even before we fully grasped the concept of powered flight.
Exactly.
People like Sir George Cayley in 1852 who designed a glider. Now, to us, a glider might seem simple, but its significance, you can't overstate it, can you?
Not at all. Cayley meticulously studied the mechanics of flight, recognizing that lift and propulsion were separate forces. His glider designs, with their fixed wings and movable tail surfaces for control, they were a concrete, scientifically informed step towards practical flight. He moved beyond the mere concept of flapping and towards understanding true aerodynamic principles. He essentially laid out the blueprint for the modern airplane.
Wow, the blueprint.
Precisely. Cayley's work, he's often considered the first true aviation engineer, was absolutely foundational. His gliders demonstrated the principles of lift, drag, and control in a repeatable way.
Okay.
And you also had visionary thinkers like William Samuel Henson, who even earlier designed this huge monoplane, the aerial steam carriage, which was supposed to be propelled by a steam engine housed inside the fuselage.
Steam power.
Yeah. While his design wasn't fully realized and only flew in models, it showed incredible foresight into the kind of integrated design and internal power source modern aircraft would eventually adopt. And then there's Otto Lilienthal, a German pioneer who took gliders to the next level in the 1890s. His crucial role was actually proving, through over 2,000 recorded flights.
2000.
Yeah, that human flight in aircraft heavier than air was practical. He meticulously documented his experiments, often leaping from hillsides, using subtle body shifts to control his sort of bat-like gliders.
Brave man.
Incredibly. His systematic approach and the data he collected, despite the inherent dangers that ultimately cost him his life, were stepping stones that inspired many, including the Wright brothers, to keep going. He showed it could actually be done, even if not yet with sustained power.
And all of that.
Yeah.
All those centuries of dreaming, failing, experimenting, and scientific breakthroughs, it all culminated in that one iconic moment. You know the one.
We all know the one.
The ultimate realization, thanks to the sheer grit, relentless experimentation, and the quiet brilliance of Wilbur and Orville Wright at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, on December 17th, 1903.
That date.
Yeah. This wasn't just another invention. It was the culmination of literally centuries of unanswered questions, a scientific progression, and that deep-seated human desire to reach for the sky. And what's truly remarkable is that they didn't just get airborne. They achieved controlled, sustained, powered flight. They mastered the three axes of control that every aircraft uses today.
What's truly fascinating here, if we connect this to the bigger picture, is how each failure and scientific insight chipped away at the unknown, laying the groundwork for what seemed impossible.
Right.
The Wright brothers didn't just build a plane in a vacuum. They stood on the shoulders of countless dreamers and thinkers who came before them, meticulously studying and improving upon their predecessors' work.
Building on what came before.
Exactly. Their success was the result of their own rigorous, methodical observation, systematic testing with custom-built wind tunnels.
Wind tunnels, even back then.
Oh, yeah. And the ingenious application of scientific principles, synthesizing all that prior knowledge into a working, controlled, powered machine. It underscores that innovation is rarely just a sudden flash, but rather an iterative process of learning, refinement, and a deep understanding of the principles at play. It was the birth of true aviation.
It's incredible to think about. Just a few short years after that first flight, people were already dreaming bigger. Imagine just, a little over a decade after the Wright Flyer, someone decided people would actually pay to fly.
Yeah, seems crazy fast, doesn't it?
It does. This brings us to the dawn of commercial passenger travel and a groundbreaking, albeit pretty short-lived, experiment, the St. Petersburg-Tampa airboat line.
Indeed. This was a remarkable leap of faith, demonstrating immense entrepreneurial spirit only 11 years after the Wrights' first flight. The St. Petersburg-Tampa airboat line, founded by Percival E. Fansler and using a Benoist IV flying boat.
A flying boat?
Yep. Operated for only 4 months during the winter tourist season of 1914. But its statistics are profoundly impressive for its time. Get this. It carried 12,205 passengers across Tampa Bay without a single injury.
Wow, in 1914, that's amazing.
It really is. This wasn't just a stunt. It definitively proved the viability of commercial passenger airline travel. It showed that people were willing to pay for the speed and novelty of air travel, even in its nascent form, and demonstrated the potential for air travel as a practical form of transportation.
And then, as often happens in history, a global conflict dramatically accelerated things. World War I, which began just a few months after that St. Pete Tampa line closed. It offered the airplane a chance to demonstrate its varied capabilities far beyond anything imagined just a few years earlier.
War often accelerates technological development at an astonishing pace, and aviation was certainly no exception.
Right.
The airplane began World War I primarily as a reconnaissance platform, a novel way to observe enemy movements from above. Pilots would just fly over enemy lines, jotting down notes or snapping primitive photos.
Just eyes in the sky, basically.
Initially, yes, but by 1918, the demands of conflict had pushed the boundaries of aircraft design and operational capabilities dramatically. Airplanes quickly diversified, proving their worth in varied capabilities from agile fighter aircraft engaging in dogfights to bombers to ground attack planes providing close air support.
A whole range of roles.
Exactly. Even specialized aircraft for observing artillery fire and busting observation balloons. This rapid evolution in combat solidified the aircraft's role as an essential, versatile military tool rather than just a curiosity, and significantly advanced aerodynamic and engine design.
Beyond military applications, the practical utility of aircraft for communication became clear. This led to the era of airmail and the establishment of crucial infrastructure across the country. We saw the transcontinental airmail route.
A huge undertaking.
Yeah, a staggering undertaking that spanned from San Francisco all the way to New York, covering a total distance of 2,612 miles with 13 intermediate stops along the way. Think about the sheer logistics of that feat, especially back in the 1920s.
It was a monumental task, transforming how information and goods could travel across the vast American continent. Imagine the courage of those early airmail pilots.
Flying in open cockpits.
Exactly. Open cockpit biplanes through all kinds of weather, navigating by little more than roads, rivers, and railroad tracks. And to support that, an entirely new infrastructure had to be built from the ground up across hundreds of miles of sometimes desolate terrain.
Right.
This included what were essentially the original airway beacons. These weren't just simple lights, they represented a monumental civil engineering feat. These powerful rotating lights were constructed at intervals of approximately 10 miles apart.
10 miles apart.
Yeah, creating a literal breadcrumb trail across a continent, especially vital for night flying.
That's right. Each standard beacon tower stood 51 feet high, topped with that powerful rotating light. And below the main beacon, two smaller course lights pointed forward and back along the airway, flashing a specific Morse code sequence to identify that particular beacon's number, giving pilots their precise location. Yeah. And for ground identification, the tower usually stood in the center of a huge 70-foot-long concrete arrow, painted bright yellow, sometimes with a generator shed at the feather end. These beacons weren't just about delivering letters, they were about laying the literal groundwork for an entire national transportation network.
Absolutely.
For those early pilots, these beacons were absolutely their original GPS, guiding them across the vast expanse of the country, particularly at night or in limited visibility. It underscored the bravery of those early airmail pilots and demonstrated an ingenious, low-tech solution to a high-stakes navigation problem.
This burgeoning industry, however, quickly recognized its limitations without formal structure. Aviation industry leaders increasingly felt that the airplane could not reach its full potential without assistance from the federal government in improving safety.
Safety became the big concern.
It did.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just about abstract safety, it was about economic viability and public trust. Without standardized rules, pilots, and aircraft, how could the public feel safe enough to fly or investors confident enough to put money into airlines? This growing concern was a clear foreshadowing of the comprehensive regulatory framework that would soon come into existence, recognizing that unchecked innovation could lead to unacceptable risks and hinder the industry's growth.
And that leads us directly into a truly pivotal period. The forging of the skies through federal aviation regulation. All of this rapid growth and incredible potential naturally created an urgent need for structure, pushing aviation towards a new era, federal oversight. Which brings us to the Air Commerce Act of 1926.
Ah, yes. This act is rightfully described as the cornerstone for aviation within the United States. Before this act, imagine an aviator flying without standardized maps, without recognized licenses, potentially even crossing paths with military aircraft in an uncoordinated manner. Yeah, with no clear rules of the road for the sky. It was indeed a bit like the Wild West. The Air Commerce Act changed all of that by establishing federal authority over air traffic rules, licensing pilots and mechanics, and certifying aircraft. It wasn't just a law, it was the birth certificate for organized air travel in the U.S., transforming a chaotic frontier into a regulated, safer space ripe for growth and public confidence.
And interestingly, a huge part of its early influence came from a man named Walter Folger Brown. He was the U.S. Postmaster General under President Herbert Hoover. His actions were incredibly impactful because he strategically changed the mail payment system specifically to encourage the manufacture of passenger aircraft instead of mail-carrying aircraft.
That's a fascinating detail, using the mail contracts to shape the industry.
Exactly. That's a direct policy decision shaping an entire industry at a crucial developmental stage.
Absolutely. Brown's strategic role in awarding these vital airmail contracts directly helped create what would become four major domestic airlines that are still household names today: United, American, Eastern, and Transcontinental and Western Air, TWA.
Wow, those giants.
Right. This wasn't accidental. He used the government's purchasing power to deliberately foster an airline industry that could serve both mail and passenger transport. In a related move, he also helped grant Pan American a monopoly on international routes,
Dynam, yeah.
demonstrating the immense power and influence of early government policies in shaping the commercial aviation landscape and establishing national air carriers. It's a prime example of how government can not only foster, but effectively create entire industries through strategic incentives and regulations.
So with the industry taking shape and the need for safety paramount, the next logical step was to ensure that people operating these machines were competent and certified. In 1927, just a year after the Air Commerce Act, we saw the beginning of federal certification for pilots and mechanics.
Yes, a crucial step for safety and professionalism. The Aeronautics branch of the Department of Commerce issued the very first pilot license on April 6, 1927, to its chief, William P. McCracken, Jr.
Okay.
It's a fun historical footnote that Orville Wright, who was no longer an active flyer, actually declined the honor of being the first recipient.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so McCracken's was the first issued by a civilian federal agency. And just 3 months later, the same branch issued the first federal aircraft mechanic license. This established a critical precedent for federal oversight, ensuring that both the operators and maintainers of aircraft met specific, uniform standards, thereby increasing public trust and operational reliability.
Fast forward a few decades, and aviation had undergone another explosive growth phase. Jets were coming online.
Big changes.
Right. This led to the Federal Aviation Act of 1958 and the creation of the Federal Aviation Agency, or FAA, as we know it today.
This was a critical pivot point indeed. By mid-century, air traffic had increased dramatically, and the introduction of jet aircraft brought much higher speeds, greater complexities, and heavier aircraft to the civil aviation arena.
A whole new ballgame.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, a series of mid-air collisions, which were tragically becoming more frequent and severe, underlined the urgent need for even more comprehensive and centralized regulation of the aviation industry. Aircraft weren't just increasing in numbers, they were now streaking across the skies at much higher speeds and altitudes, creating unprecedented challenges for air traffic management and safety. It was clear the existing framework, the CAA, just wasn't adequate anymore.
And the response was decisive, creating a powerful independent agency.
It was. The Federal Aviation Act of 1958 established a new independent body, the Federal Aviation Agency, which quickly became known simply as the FAA. This new agency assumed the roles of the existing Civil Aeronautics Authority, CAA, and inherited rulemaking authority from the Civil Aeronautics Board, CAB.
So it consolidated power.
Essentially, yes. Crucially, the FAA was given complete control of the common civil-military system of air navigation and air traffic control, a monumental responsibility. Former Air Force General Elwood Richard P. Casada served as its first administrator from 1959-1961, tasked with building this robust organization from the ground up. The centralization of authority and emphasis on safety in a rapidly evolving airspace is a classic example of how regulation often follows innovation, especially when public safety is at stake. It ensured a unified, robust approach to managing increasingly complex air operations, essentially creating the modern air traffic control system we rely on today.
The FAA then had to continually adapt to the incredible pace of traffic growth and technological advancement. In January 1982, they unveiled the ambitious National Airspace System, or NAS plan.
Right, the NAS.
Specifically designed to meet the challenge of anticipated future traffic growth.
The NAS plan was an incredibly forward-looking and comprehensive initiative aiming to modernize every facet of the national airspace. It called for more advanced, highly automated systems for both en route and terminal air traffic control, ATC.
More automation.
Yep. A complete modernization of flight service stations, FSS, which provide weather briefings and flight planning assistance, and significant improvements in ground-to-air surveillance and communication capabilities. These were sweeping upgrades aimed at increasing capacity, efficiency, and safety for decades to come.
A massive undertaking.
Huge. And during this very challenging period, the FAA also faced a significant internal challenge from the Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization, or PATISO, strike.
Ah, the PAT-TCO strike.
A dramatic confrontation that underscored the critical importance of air traffic controllers and the resilience of the nation's airspace management system during a time of immense growth and modernization. While the source doesn't detail its outcome, it was a pivotal, tumultuous moment that tested the FAA's resolve.
And as we talk about shaping modern aviation, we can't ignore the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978. For decades prior, the Civil Aeronautics Board, or CAB, had regulated many aspects of commercial aviation, everything from fares and routes to schedules. They had a pretty heavy hand in how airlines operated, didn't they?
They certainly did. The CIB's functions included awarding specific routes to airlines, often limiting the entry of new air carriers into markets, and directly regulating passenger fares. This meant airlines largely operated in a controlled, less competitive environment. There was less incentive to innovate on price or service, as their routes and prices were essentially guaranteed.
A bit cozy, maybe.
You could say that. But the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978 fundamentally changed the face of civil aviation in the United States by removing many of these federal controls.
And the outcome. How did this unfettered free competition actually play out? What did it mean for passengers and the airlines?
Well, the outcome was an era of unfettered free competition, which ushered in a completely new approach to passenger air travel. While it undeniably brought competitive pricing and a greater variety of routes for consumers, leading to more affordable air travel for many.
That's the upside.
That's the big upside, yes. But it also fundamentally altered the airline business model. This led to significant consolidation within the industry, fewer, bigger airlines, the rise of powerful hub-and-spoke networks.
Flying through hubs, yeah.
Right. And intense pressure on operational efficiency and labor costs. Smaller communities sometimes saw reduced direct service as airlines focused on more profitable hub routes. So it's a complex legacy. There were celebrated benefits for passengers in terms of choice and cost, absolutely, but also significant challenges for airlines in some communities that continue to be debated today. It truly transformed the entire economic landscape of commercial flight.
So, having charted humanity's incredible journey from desperate dreams to a global network of flight and understood the regulatory groundwork laid by pivotal acts, the natural question becomes, how does this rich history, this legacy of ambition and safety, translate into the living, breathing framework that governs our skies today?
Right.
What does the FAA, born from these historical imperatives, actually do for you as a pilot or aspiring aviator in the modern era?
That's an excellent question, and it brings us right to the practical living framework of aviation. At its core, the FAA ensures safety and order, and that's primarily through the Code of Federal Regulations, or CFR.
The CFR.
The rule book.
Exactly. This is the voluminous primary legal framework governing all aviation activities in the United States. It's crucial for pilots to understand that they operate under these regulations every single time they step into a cockpit. It emphasizes their critical role in ensuring safety and order in the skies. From the moment you begin your training to the day you fly commercially, the CFR is your legal compass. And for those seeking to become pilots or needing aviation services, there are specific places to go for assistance and oversight, right? You don't just call up a central FAA hotline for everything.
Exactly. The FAA operates through a nationwide network of field offices, and the most accessible for individual pilots are the Flight Standards District Offices, or FSDOs.
The FSDOs, okay.
These FSDOs have a multifaceted and vital role. They're involved in accident investigation and the enforcement of aviation regulations, ensuring compliance. But they also handle the certification and surveillance of air carriers, air operators, flight schools, training centers, and crucially, individual airmen. That includes pilots and flight instructors.
So they're the local FAA presence.
Pretty much. If you ever have questions about pilot certification, need to address a regulatory issue, or require other aviation services, your local FSDO is truly the place to start. They are the local face of the FAA.
So who are the dedicated individuals making sure all of this happens on the ground, upholding these incredibly high standards? Who works at the FSDO?
That would be the Aviation Safety Inspectors, or ASIs. They staff these FSDOs, and they play an absolutely key role in making the nation's aviation system safe, working diligently behind the scenes, mostly.
Okay.
ASIs administer and enforce safety regulations and standards across the entire life cycle of an aircraft, from its initial production and continued operation to its maintenance and any modifications. They specialize in conducting inspections of various aspects of the aviation system, like aircraft and parts manufacturing, airline or charter operations, aircraft airworthiness, and even cabin safety to ensure passenger well-being.
That sounds like an incredibly rigorous and detailed job. What kind of training do these ASIs undergo to handle such a complex and vital role? They need to know a lot.
They really do. It is indeed rigorous, and their expertise is built on extensive training. ASIs must complete a comprehensive initial training program at the FAA Academy in Oklahoma City.
Ah, okay, see.
Yep, which covers everything from airman evaluation and pilot testing techniques to regulatory procedures. Beyond that, they receive extensive on-the-job training in their specific areas of specialization and recurrent training on a regular basis to stay current with evolving technology, new aircraft types, and changes in regulations.
Constant learning.
Absolutely. With approximately 3,700 ASIs across all the FSDO offices, it's a substantial, highly trained workforce dedicated to safeguarding every aspect of aviation. And in addition to the FSDOs, the FAA also supports the FAA Safety Team, or FAST team. That serves as another vital resource for safety information and education for pilots, fostering a culture of safety throughout the aviation community. It's more about proactive education and outreach rather than just enforcement.
Fast team. Got it. So if you're a pilot or becoming one, you'll be constantly interacting with various documents and resources. What are the essential ones that form your personal library for safe and legal flight? What do you need to know?
Great question. These documents aren't just reference materials. They are, in essence, your aircraft's constitution and your personal guide to the rules of the sky. First, there's the Aeronautical Information Manual, or AIM.
The AIM. Yeah, hear that a lot.
Right. This is a critical, comprehensive reference for pilots, covering everything from air traffic control procedures and general flight operations to basic airmanship and general aviation information. It's essentially the FAA's official, regularly updated guide to flying safely and efficiently in the U.S. national airspace system, detailing non-regulatory information and accepted operating practices. It's not regulation, but it's how you do things.
Okay, so it's the how-to guide for the airspace system. And beyond that, the FAA itself publishes many useful guides that dive deeper into specific topics, right?
Yes, the FAA handbooks are invaluable for enhancing a pilot's knowledge. These are developed to provide specific, detailed information about a particular topic, thereby enhancing training and understanding beyond what's covered in the regulations or the A.
Like what?
Well, they generally fall into three categories: aircraft, aviation, and examiners and inspectors. For example, there's the Airplane Flying Handbook and the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, the very document we're diving into today.
Right.
You can purchase them from the Superintendent of Documents or download them for free from the FAA's website, which is great. Many commercial aviation companies also publish similar handbooks to complement this official guidance.
So those are general guides. But what about something specific to the actual plane you're flying? Every aircraft is a little different, isn't it?
That's where the Pilot Operating Handbooks, or POHs, which are often combined with the Aircraft Flight Manuals, or AFMs, come in. These are incredibly important documents.
POHAFM.
Yeah. They're developed by the aircraft manufacturer and are formally approved by the FAA. What's crucial here is that they are specific to a particular make and model aircraft by its serial number.
A serial number. So my plane's POH might be slightly different from the one next to it?
Exactly, depending on its specific equipment and modifications. Think of it as your aircraft's personal instruction manual and birth certificate, approved by the highest authority. These documents are absolutely non-negotiable for safe operations. They contain critical performance and limitation data you must know and adhere to.
Like what kind of data?
Everything. Precise maximum takeoff weights, stall speeds in various configurations, exact fuel burn rates for different power settings, emergency procedures. Ignoring this data isn't just a legal infraction, it's a fundamental breach of aviation safety and can have dire consequences.
Okay, so POH is king for your specific aircraft. And finally, for up-to-the-minute time-critical information on changes or hazards that aren't yet on charts, there are NOTAMs.
Yes, notices to airmen or NOTAM-D information. These are disseminated for all navigational facilities in the National Airspace System and all public youth airports, seaplane bases, and heliports listed in the Chart Supplement US.
So temporary changes.
Exactly. This information includes vital, time-sensitive data like temporary taxiway closures, the presence of personnel and equipment near or crossing runways, airport lighting aids that might be temporarily out of service, like a VSASI, things like that.
Important stuff to know before you taxi out.
Absolutely critical. All DNOTAMs are required to begin with a specific keyword, like RWY for runway, TWY for taxiway, ramp, apron, AD for aerodrome, OBST for obstacle, NEV for navigation aid, and so on. This helps pilots quickly identify the type of information being conveyed. It's absolutely essential to check and understand all relevant NOTAMs before every flight.
Okay, so we've established the history and the regulatory framework and the key documents. Now, before you can even think about flying, you need to know what you're flying. The FAA has very specific definitions and classifications for aircraft and pilots. So what exactly is an aircraft in the eyes of the FAA, and how does that broad definition then get refined into categories that truly matter for us as pilots?
Right. The FAA's definition of an aircraft, laid out in Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 1, 14 CFR Part 1, is deceptively simple. It's just a device that is used or intended to be used for flight.
Pretty broad.
Very broad. But it's this broad stroke that has allowed for the incredible diversity we see in aviation, from simple balloons to complex, experimental powered lifts. This broad definition then branches into various more specific categories for airman certification, which dictate what kind of aircraft a pilot can be certified to fly.
These categories matter for training.
Hugely. They're crucial because they determine your training requirements and privileges. They include airplanes, which are engine-driven, fixed-wing aircraft supported by the dynamic reaction of air over their wings.
The most common type.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
Then rotorcraft, like helicopters and gyroplanes, which use engine-driven rotors for lift. Gliders, which are unpowered, lighter-than-air vehicles, like balloons and airships. Powered lift aircraft, which can take off and land vertically but fly like a fixed-wing aircraft.
Like the Osprey.
Exactly. Also powered parachutes and weight shift control aircraft, which are powered aircraft with a framed pivoting wing controlled by the pilot shifting their weight. Think trikes.
That's quite a range. And what about more technologically advanced aircraft, the ones with all the glass cockpits, the screens? Is there a special category?
There's a newer term, advanced avionics aircraft. Although it's not yet formally codified in 14 CFR Part 1, it generally refers to an aircraft that contains a GPS navigation system with a moving map display in conjunction with another advanced system, like an autopilot.
So GPS moving map plus something else.
Right. This combination isn't just about fancy screens. It represents a huge leap in situational awareness. Pilots can now instantly see their position relative to terrain, weather, other aircraft, often integrating with sophisticated autopilots that can manage much of the flight path. This dramatically reduces pilot workload and significantly increases safety, especially in complex airspace or bad weather. It lets pilots focus more on higher-level decision-making.
Makes sense. The FAA also groups aircraft by size and weight, correct?
Yeah.
No? That must have implications for operating rules.
Yes. These classifications are also found in 14 CFR 1.1 and have direct regulatory consequences. Large aircraft are defined as those with more than 12,500 pounds maximum certificated takeoff weight. Operating these larger aircraft typically involves more complex procedures, multi-crew requirements, different maintenance schedules, etc.
Okay. And the other end?
Then there are light sport aircraft, or LSAs. An LSA is an aircraft other than a helicopter or powered lift that, since its original certification, has continued to meet specific definitions in 14 CFR 1.1 regarding its weight, speed, and other characteristics.
Like simpler, lighter planes.
Generally, yes. This category was specifically created to make flying more accessible and affordable, allowing for simpler training and medical requirements. LSAs are quite diverse, though, and can include airplanes, airships, balloons, gliders, gyroplanes, powered parachutes, and weight shift control aircraft. These classifications are important for determining everything from operational rules and pilot certification levels to maintenance requirements and the specific flight regions an aircraft can access.
Now let's talk about the people who fly them. What are the different pathways to the cockpit in terms of pilot certification? It seems like there's a ladder to climb, starting at the bottom.
The pilot certification process is indeed a structured progression, mirroring the increasing levels of skill and responsibility. It starts with the student pilot certificate.
Okay, student pilot. What's that for?
This certificate's primary purpose is to allow solo flight, but only under very specific limited circumstances and always when the student is actively training with a flight instructor. It's only truly needed when you're exercising those solo flight privileges, giving you your first taste of true independence in the air.
So you needed to fly alone for the first time.
Exactly. Processing can be done efficiently by an FAA inspector, an FAA-designated pilot examiner, DPE, an airman certification representative, ACR, or even your certified flight instructor, CFI. The newer plastic certificates actually have no expiration date, which is a great convenience.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, while older paper ones remain valid until their stated expiry, then you need a new application via the IACRA system. The CFI, your instructor, plays an absolutely vital role here, not only teaching you, but also authorizing your solo maneuvers and endorsing your logbook for specific flights and tests after you've demonstrated proficiency in both knowledge and flight hours.
What's the next step up from a student pilot, and what kind of freedoms and limitations does it come with? Is it the recreational?
It is. The recreational pilot certificate grants more privileges than a student pilot. It allows you to fly solo or carry one passenger for the purpose of obtaining additional certificates or ratings, but still under the supervision of an authorized flight instructor for certain activities, as outlined in 61101I of the CFR.
So still some supervision.
Yes, and this certificate comes with certain distinct limitations. For instance, you can only fly during the daytime, under visual flight rules, meaning good weather, basically.
That far.
Right. With a minimum of 3 statute miles visibility, always maintaining visual contact with the ground, and typically within 50 nautical miles of your home airport. While it's a fantastic entry point into aviation, these limitations mean most pilots quickly aim for the private pilot certificate to gain more flexibility.
Ah, the private pilot certificate. This is the big one for most aspiring pilots, isn't it?
Yeah.
I hear it's the most common certificate held by active pilots. Why is this particular certification often considered the gateway to personal aviation, and what makes it so appealing?
That's an excellent question, and it gets to the heart of why so many people pursue flight training. The private pilot certificate is indeed the most common and often seen as the true gateway because it grants you significantly broader privileges.
Like what?
You can fly for pleasure or personal business, carry passengers, fly cross-country across vast distances, truly commanding the aircraft for non-commercial purposes, almost anywhere in the world, really, with the right permissions, both day and night, all under visual flight rules.
So much more freedom. What's the catch? Can you get paid?
That's the key restriction. You cannot accept compensation for flying, with one very specific exception known as the pro rata share rule.
Karada.
Yeah, it means passengers can pay a portion of the flight expenses, things like fuel, oil, or the actual rental costs of the plane. The critical distinction is that you cannot profit from the flight or even cover all your own costs. You're simply sharing the direct variable expenses. It's about sharing the adventure, not running a charter service.
Gotcha. And what does it take to get it, generally?
To earn the certificate, if training under 14 CFR Part 61, you'll generally need at least 40 hours of piloting time, including 20 hours with an instructor and 10 hours of solo flight, along with a logbook endorsement from your instructor saying you're ready, passing the required practical test, the check ride, and obtaining at least a third-class medical certificate.
Okay. And for those who dream of flying the big jets for an airline, of making aviation their career, what's the pinnacle of pilot certification?
That would be the Airline Transport Pilot, or ATP, certificate. This is the highest level of pilot certification, qualifying you for the most demanding and responsible positions in aviation, like captaining an airliner.
The ATP.
Right. To be eligible, you must be a minimum of 21 years old, be able to read, speak, and understand the English language fluently, and be of good moral standing. The ATP certificate also has provisions for restricted privileges.
Restricted ATP.
Yes. RATP. It allows pilots to serve as second-in-command, or SIC, in scheduled airline operations with reduced flight hour experience, provided they meet specific academic and flight training program requirements. It's created pathways for pilots coming out of certain university or military programs, for example.
Oh, okay.
So the progression from student to recreational, then private, commercial, and finally ATP, clearly shows a structured pathway of increasing responsibility, skill, and regulatory oversight. It accurately reflects the immense demands of different flight operations, from just flying for fun to commanding commercial airliners carrying hundreds of passengers. It truly represents the utmost standard of pilot professionalism and capability.
Okay, so you've got the bug, you've heard about these different certificates, and you're ready to take to the skies. You want to fly. Where do you actually go to learn?
Selecting a flight school is a truly crucial first step, and it turns out there are a few different types of training providers out there, each with its own advantages and maybe disadvantages. Indeed, the choice of flight school can significantly impact your training experience, your learning pace, and even your overall cost. In the United States, flight training is primarily conducted under the auspices of the FAA, following regulations outlined in 14 CFR Parts 142, 141, or 61. Each of these parts defines a different type of training provider, offering varied levels of structure and flexibility.
So what's the most structured, most intensive option, often associated with career pilots? Is that Part 142?
That would typically be the FAA-approved training centers operating under 14 CFR Part 142. These are often referred to as flight academies or simulator centers. Certification for these is voluntary, but they must meet incredibly stringent requirements for personnel, equipment, maintenance facilities, and have an FAA-approved curriculum.
Heavy on simulators.
Very heavy use of flight simulation training devices, from basic trainers to full-motion, high-fidelity simulators, as an integral part of their curricula. Their primary clientele are often airlines and other commercial operators training pilots for transport or turbine aircraft, but many also offer training for private, commercial, instrument, and ATP certificates. They offer a highly structured, fast-paced learning environment, often at a premium cost.
Okay, the academy route. And then there are FAA-approved pilot schools under Part 141. How do they differ, and what's the unique benefit for students there?
Flight schools operating under 14 CFR Part 141 are also voluntarily certificated by the FAA and, like the training centers, must meet stringent requirements for personnel, equipment, maintenance, and facilities. They teach an FAA-approved training course outline, or TCO.
Yeah, TCO.
Right. These schools offer a more standardized, structured curriculum than, say, independent instructors, which often leads to a potentially shorter total flight hour requirement for certain certificates, like the private or commercial.
Potentially fewer hours needed.
Potentially, yes, because the curriculum is very structured and approved. A unique benefit of these Part 141 schools is that they may be authorized to directly give their graduates practical or flight tests and knowledge, or computer-administered written tests. This can sometimes simplify the testing process. The FAA Pilot Schools Search Database online is a great resource that lists these certificated schools and the specific courses they offer.
Good tip. And for those looking for more flexibility, perhaps to learn at their own pace or balance training with work or family.
For maximum flexibility, you have non-certificated flying schools and independent flight instructors who operate under 14 CFR Part 61.
Part 61.
Right. These providers still operate under strict FAA regulations, ensuring safety and compliance, but they offer more tailored and flexible training options. You can often learn at your own pace, customize lessons, and work around your schedule. This can sometimes be a more cost-effective option, particularly if you're not on an accelerated career path. So regardless of the path you choose, Part 142, 141, or 61, the FAA's safety standards are always the guiding force, ensuring you receive quality training.
Beyond the training itself, there's another absolutely vital component to becoming and remaining a pilot: the all-important medical certificate. It's not just a formality, is it? It's a serious requirement.
No, not a formality at all. It is a critical safety barrier and a testament to the ongoing commitment to safety in aviation. Most pilots need a valid medical certificate to exercise the privileges of their airman certificates.
Most. Are there exceptions?
There are some exceptions, yes. Glider and free balloon pilots aren't required to hold one, and sport pilots can use a valid state driver's license instead, provided they meet certain conditions. However, and this is crucial regardless of whether a medical certificate is legally required, 14 CFR 61.53 mandates that every pilot must not act as a crew member if they know or have reason to know of any medical condition that would make them unable to operate the aircraft in a safe manner.
So the responsibility is ultimately on the pilot.
Absolutely. It puts the responsibility firmly and unequivocally on the pilot, a profound ethical and safety obligation. Your physical and mental fitness is paramount when you're in command of an aircraft, where quick, clear decision-making is essential.
And how does one go about obtaining this medical certificate? What does the process involve? Do I just go to my regular doctor?
Not usually. It's obtained by passing a physical examination administered by a doctor who is an FAA-authorized aviation medical examiner, or
An
AME.
AME, okay.
These AMEs are physicians specifically trained and authorized by the FAA to conduct these specialized medical evaluations. They assess your vision, hearing, cardiovascular health, neurological function, mental health, and overall physical condition against rigorous aviation standards. There are about 6,000 FAA-authorized AMEs nationwide, and the FAA provides an online locator to help you find one easily.
And there are different classes of medicals.
Yes. Medical certificates are designated as first class, second class, or third class with varying durations of validity and physical requirements. Generally, a first class medical is for airline transport pilots, a second class for commercial pilots, and a third class for student, recreational, and private pilots. This isn't just a check mark, it's an ongoing commitment to personal fitness, recognizing that the physiological demands of flight require a healthy body and mind.
So once you're trained and medically cleared, it's time to prove your competence through tests. There's a knowledge test and then the practical test, often called the check ride. How do these work? Let's start with the knowledge test.
That's right. The journey culminates in demonstrating your knowledge and skill. The knowledge test is the computer-based portion of the certification process. It contains objective, multiple-choice questions covering all the relevant knowledge areas: aerodynamics, weather, regulations, navigation systems.
The book stuff.
Pretty much, yeah. This method is incredibly efficient because it conserves applicant time, eliminates individual judgment in grading, and saves time in scoring, providing immediate results. You'll need an Airman Knowledge Test report with a satisfactory grade from an approved testing center to proceed to the next stage.
Okay, pass the written, and then the big moment.
Yeah.
The practical test, or check ride. That sounds like the ultimate proving ground, the final exam in the sky.
It truly is. The practical test, or check ride, is where you actually demonstrate your flight proficiency to an FAA-designated pilot examiner, or DPE. This is a real-world evaluation of your ability to safely and competently operate an aircraft, perform required maneuvers, and make sound decisions under observation.
What do you need before you can even schedule that?
Before you can even take it, there are several crucial prerequisites. You'll need your medical certificate, unless you're a glider or balloon pilot, where other provisions apply: a student pilot certificate, if applicable, and crucially, a pilot logbook endorsed by your flight instructor.
The instructor sign-off.
Exactly. This endorsement confirms you've received the required training for solo flight, solo cross-country for airplane and rotorcraft, and for the specific make and model aircraft you'll be using for the test. It signifies your instructor believes you are ready. For sport pilot applicants, a valid driver's license or medical certificate meets that requirement.
The role of the flight instructor throughout this entire process sounds absolutely vital, almost like a mentor as much as a teacher.
The Certified Flight Instructor, or CFI, is truly at the heart of pilot development, serving as both a teacher and a crucial mentor. Their training mandate is comprehensive: to train the student pilot in all the knowledge areas and teach the skills necessary for the student pilot to operate safely and competently in the national airspace system.
More than just stick and rudder.
Oh, much more. This is a holistic approach, encompassing not just stick and rudder skills, but also critical airmanship, pilot judgment, sound decision-making, and good operating practices, all of which are essential for safety. Instructors serve as powerful role models, and students naturally observe the flying habits of his or her flight instructor, often attempting to imitate them.
So good habits matter.
Immensely. Therefore, any deficiencies in maneuvers or techniques must immediately be emphasized and corrected by the CFI to instill good habits from the very beginning. For specific details on required pilot maneuvers and the performance standards you'll be held to on your check ride, you'd refer to the Airman Certification Standards, or ACS.
The ACS, right.
Which for most certificates have replaced the older Pilot Training Standards, PTS, and are available for free from the FAA. It's clear that becoming a pilot isn't just about learning to operate a machine. It's about developing a profound mindset of safety, responsibility, and continuous learning, largely guided by your instructor.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken today. Seriously, from Leonardo da Vinci's visionary drawings and those ancient myths of flight to the dramatic first powered flight by the Wright brothers, and then all the way to the sophisticated systems and robust regulatory framework of the modern FAA. We've really seen how humanity's relentless pursuit of flight has been shaped by ingenuity, courage, scientific rigor, and an ever-growing, unwavering commitment to safety.
Indeed. This deep dive into Chapter 1 of the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge has profoundly shown us that aviation is not merely a collection of technologies, but an intricate living system. It's built on a foundation of historical ambition, robust federal regulation, and a structured, rigorous path to pilot certification. And understanding these foundational elements isn't just for pilots, it's really for anyone who marvels at the skies above us and appreciates the incredible journey of human endeavor that made modern flight possible and relatively safe.
It truly gives you a new appreciation for every flight you take, or even just witness. And considering that incredible journey of human flight, from those ancient dreams to today's incredibly sophisticated systems and the detailed frameworks governing them, what do you think is the next impossible barrier aviation will break? What's the next big leap, and how might it reshape our relationship with the sky?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Is it widespread electric or autonomous flight, personal aerial vehicles buzzing around, maybe even routine commercial space travel, or something we can't even fully imagine yet? Something to think about. Keep looking up, keep asking questions, and keep that curiosity alive. Until our next deep dive, happy exploring.